All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Hey, good afternoon. Carl Rominger here, coming back at you, 540-0580. Whew. Little rain coming down out there. That weather report says there might be some isolated cells. Well, I saw the Hurricane Eduardo, or whatever that is, Ernesto. Looks like it arrived early. 540-0580. Nancy, you've been holding patiently through the beginning of the show here. You know, we'll be live for an hour answering people's questions, but you're first this hour. Hey,
Yes,
Nancy.
hello, Attorney Rominger.
What do you got?
Well, I probably performed one of the best acts on the Disney property in front of the Circus Soleil tent about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
We were in the parking lot, and I was approaching the walkway, and my left foot hit the tip of one of those bumpers that are placed in the ground to keep the car from going any further.
Yep.
And body slammed me it just face first into the ground. Well, needless to say, I ended up with breaking my front tooth off at the gum line the whole way across, and another tooth was loose. And then I ended up in oral surgery and had to have...
Why didn't you see what you tripped on? What was the story there?
Pardon?
Why didn't you see what you were tripping on? I mean, what happened?
Actually, down there, those bumpers are not painted like they are up here.
Okay.
They're the same color as the cement. And to be honest with you, I saw that there. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, wow, that's strange. They should have them painted. And I thought I had cleared it. And I had taken a step with my right foot, and then I took a step with my left. Had my right foot been in front of me, it could have caught me. But my right foot was behind me, and when I hit that tip of that with my left foot, I couldn't stop myself. It just slammed me to the ground so fast.
Right. So your theory would be that the landowner was negligent for not painting that.
Well, you know, they were that quick. They had ambulance, security, all kinds of stuff was swarming around. And of course, I got up with a bloody nose, and, you know. But anyway, to make a long story short, they did come out, and I did say before I got in the ambulance, may I make a suggestion to personnel? And they said, yeah. I said, I suggest they paint those curbs there, you know, a bright color. Everything else is painted, I'm sure. He said, well, we'll make note of that. At that point, I was just concerned about my family. We had reservations to go into for a little dinner that day at the Rainforest Cafe. Well, they came out and they gave them a $100 gift certificate so they could have dinner there, you know, later on, which was very nice of them. But I went to the Disney, it was the Disney-owned hospital/oral surgery center.
Okay.
And upon arriving, then when they find out I'm 74, I'm on Medicare, and Medicare does not cover dental.
Right.
And so at that point, they were advising me that, well, maybe you want to just wait till you get home. I said, this is Monday. I don't fly out till Friday. And I said, you know, the scenario. And I said, the trauma's in my mouth now. I want it out. I want it to start healing. And they said, well, you have to pay in full, and the bill was like $900. And I said, well, I don't have that kind of money. And I did have $350 on me. And I told them I could give them $300. And they said, well, we'll ask the surgeon. And they came back. They said they don't bill you. But telling them I could give them $300, they said, okay, they'll accept it. So far, I haven't received the billing from them or from the ambulance yet.
Right. So but let's focus on something here. Your ability to recover is going to turn on whether or not the landowner is liable, right?
Pardon?
Your ability to recover turns on whether or not the landowner is liable for your injuries.
If someone falls on my property, I have home renter's insurance, and, I didn't by no way mean for this to happen. This is not my idea of going on a vacation.
No, but it may be nobody's fault. And if it's nobody's fault, then there's no money to collect. Or maybe both of yours' fault, then there's maybe no money to collect. So that's something we have to analyze. Now, you do have a good theory working, which is if you're going to paint everything else, why not paint these? In fact,
exactly.
In fact, you lulled me into a falser sense of security because I thought that anything that was going to be an impediment like this was clearly marked.
Yeah, I mean, they had the walkway marked with white lines going sideways, which I was, and my grandson, who's 30 years old, was reaching his hand, said, "Come on, Grandma." I said, I'm fine. I'm right with you. And by that, I was down.
So let me ask you this question. This is all in Florida?
Yes.
Okay. What we need to do is get you a Florida attorney.
I need an attorney for this?
Well, I don't know. I mean, are you looking for damages?
No, I just want my medical bills to be paid. I mean, they're ongoing here because now I have to have a new partial made, and I discovered later I was actually reaching in my purse for my glasses, and I didn't. And probably it was good that I was, because maybe if I would have used my hands to break my fall, I could have broke both my wrists at that point.
Right.
So I didn't know until later that my glasses were broken, and it was just a mess.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well, yeah, it sounds like something you need to pursue. You may be able to pursue for liability, and you may be entitled to some pain and suffering above your medical injury. You may also not be entitled to anything.
Is there a time limit for filing
Florida.
this?
That's Florida. That's why you need a Florida attorney and talk to a Florida attorney right away.
Uh-huh.
So my advice is get on the Internet, look up a Florida personal injury attorney in that area, and run it by them and see what they say.
Okay.
All right?
So it's no simple procedure like just sending Disney.
There's another state, another rule, set of rules. What if there's a 3-month rule down there? I mean, what if you got a 90-day rule? You have to give notice. You might miss it.
Right.
So, no, we'd have to talk to somebody from Florida. Every state's different, and the rules are particular. And while we'd be happy to write a letter to Disney for you, our concern would be is we don't know Florida law.
Right.
Got it?
Okay. Yep, I sure do.
All right, Nancy,
Thank
good
you,
luck.
Attorney Robbinger. All right. Bye-bye.
Don't trip.
Yeah,
It hurts.
Really. Bye-bye.
And seriously, though, and you just don't know what your time limits are down there. That's why I want you to talk with somebody. 540-0580. Bob, you're on the air.
Hello, Carl.
Yeah.
I was listening. I called in immediately, and I'd like to respond very quickly. Just make a comment about the woman that just got off the radio about Disneyland.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is why our medical bills and our medical industry is out of hand. Here's a 70-year-old woman that was reaching for her glasses. It's appalling.
Right.
Now let's just sue somebody so we can get something paid for. Where's personal responsibility?
Now, I would understand the argument if she's saying I was walking along and I didn't realize that there was a curb there because all the other ones were clearly marked and this one wasn't. There may be some fault on the other side. I'm not going to say that there isn't. But I think if you picked up from my answer to her on the call is I think it's going to be a tough one to prove liability on because generally you have a duty to watch where you're walking.
I had a friend when I was younger whose little boy was at Showbiz Pizza.
Mm-hmm.
He stuck the kid on one of those plastic horses that you put a quarter in, turned around to get himself a slice of pizza while his boy was on the horse. It threw him off, caught his kid's foot in a stirrup, broke his ankle, and caused damage, and the kid became wealthy.
Right.
Now he's a crackhead. Well, this is things that have run amok. And I'm frankly sick of it. Ma'am, you're 74 years old. You need to pay your bill and move on. Not everybody has a nice set of dentures and a nice partial. You did it. It happens. That's why they call them accidents.
Now,
I'm sorry. That's my position.
Now, Bob, and I don't fault your position per se. However, I would tell you, and it's interesting, if you go around and you see, for instance, in Canada where they don't have a very reformed tort system, or a very well-formed tort system, I should say, like we do here, and you go to the beach, it's not unusual to find, say, a slide with sharp metal on it or a little rusty or out of shape because there's no danger of being sued, so there's no insurance guy running around saying to the landowner, hey, you're running a commercial beach here. You need to really clean this stuff up because otherwise we won't insure you. And so the flip side is you could use regulation to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the other alternative. So theoretically, private lawsuits act as a form of regulation, and they work as a case-by-case form of regulation. That's the argument in their favor, and it can't be completely discounted. On the other hand, is it the most efficient way? No. And does it allow for people to hit jackpot lotteries? Yes. But then again, so does capitalism.
I know.
So
I just hate to see us get on that. We're always on this slippery slope to getting remunerated for everything. That the hamburger lady at Wendy's.
I know.
The idiot that spilled coffee and she walked away a millionaire, a multi-millionaire. Here's what it just bugs me.
Welcome to the slot machine called law. All right, hold on. I'm going to let you go, but after the break, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. 540-0580.
Let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Okay, so this morning I'm listening to the doctors here, right? I know some of you probably listen to them in the morning. Very interesting, but of course they were carping. Oh, this doctor was taken to court, and he was being treated like a criminal, and he had to go through depositions and a trial, and the judge threw it out. Well, interestingly, in Pennsylvania, in order to bring a medical malpractice claim, you do have to have what's called a certificate of merit, which means another doctor has to go ahead and opine to a reasonable degree of medical certainty that there was medical malpractice. So to the extent that, and I like the doctor's show, I just wanted to carp about this since it's my turn to talk on the microphone, and I would love to have them on sometime, or they can have me on, I don't care. We can debate this back and forth. But a doctor, a bona fide guy with a medical license who does what they do for a living, has said that there was medical malpractice there before you can bring it to court, and you can even file the lawsuit, basically. It's called Certificate of Merit. Didn't always have those, but it's been around for about a decade now, give or take. My point being is that guy couldn't have been in court and couldn't have been facing a medical malpractice complaint unless another doctor was willing to point the finger and say to a reasonable degree of medical certainty there was medical malpractice. So I didn't really like to hear the whining about how, well, he was treated like not treated like a criminal, he was treated like anybody else who's being sued in a civil suit. So when a landlord evicts a tenant, or a tenant sues the landlord, or a husband divorces a wife, those are all forms of litigation, and that's what happens. You have to answer it. You have to answer it. Well, if you're a doctor or you're a lawyer, and one of your clients alleges medical malpractice or legal malpractice, and that person's able to convince another lawyer or doctor that it was in fact such a thing, then the courts will take a look at it. But you have to get that second doctor or second lawyer involved. So, again, just don't be misled. The other thing is, and I really like it, is, they also carp all the time about the tort reform, how they're getting tort reform. But, boy, they're mainly very upset about the whole Obamacare plan and all the things it's going to do. So, they want government to stay out, but they want government to stay in. Dan, you're on the air.
Hi, I was just listening, and the woman who was speaking from Disney and the gentleman that answered back.
Yes.
You were really touching on, in what you just said, on the broader picture of the scenario. With the anger towards the Obamacare. The woman that fell in Disney, Medicare doesn't cover dental needs, and a lot of people don't realize how broadly dental care and having a healthy teeth and a healthy mouth it impacts health care, your health across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And, the woman wasn't someone looking to get rich. She just wants to make sure that she's not going to go bankrupt by all of this oral surgery from what have you. And so I really found it interesting that got jumped to, this frivolous lawsuit, things of that nature. And, the truth of the matter is, with situations like this, had we had a healthcare system that wasn't mainly only accessible, except in life and death emergency, really it's only accessible when you have financial means.
Right.
And, had we had a healthcare system that would accept her, and care for her without some looming bill if she's on Medicare at 70-something, she's on likely a very fixed income.
Mm-hmm.
Had we had a healthcare system that was welcoming to her, and would take care of her need without some massive bill, and we all took care of each other in that way, there wouldn't be a need for her to be seeking those damages, just very limited to, I just have to make sure that this bill gets paid. And that's really all I wanted to say, because the gentleman kind of jumped on this woman like she committed some atrocity, and it was I kind of felt bad for her.
Right.
She was still listening because, she tripped and those things happen, and I'm not going to say that Disney is a villain for not painting their curbs. But had we had a healthcare system that just said, okay, everyone's going to put in to this system so that everyone can get taken care of when it's needed, there wouldn't be all of this situations like that wouldn't have to be litigated just to make sure someone.
Well, no, you're 100% right, because here's what tort law is at the end of the day. It's cost allocation. And so the policy theory is we will allocate the cost of an injury to the responsible party.
Right.
And that will cause people to try not to injure people, and that will cause people to build safer, better things in order to prevent, again, this claim being brought against them. And so it has a policy aspect, but at the end of the day, it's really just about cost allocation, and there are other ways to allocate cost, which would be through a no-fault, single-party health care benefit.
Right.
So those are all thoughts. What I do like about the tort system, and I think it's interesting that people forget, they're like, oh, these lawsuits are strangling business, blah blah blah. First of all, business to business tort lawsuits and business to business contract lawsuits are like the biggest use of court time. Anyhow, businesses love to sue each other because everybody wants to fight over who's going to pay for what. But my point is, tort law does allow for certain progress in society, and we have such a robust economy. We've had such a robust economy, even though we've actively had all this tort law all these years. So I'm sort of partial to it, obviously, because of my profession. But I can't say that completely replacing tort law is necessarily in everybody's best interest, because right now there's guys that work for insurance companies. That's all they do is walk onto places to make it safer so that the insured's risk goes down. And that's a direct benefit. Now, you could use regulation, like I've said before, but regulation is a one-size-fits-all solution. Creating just general liability causes everybody who's in a different scenario to try to do what they can to minimize their liability versus the risk-reward of the business. And so,
Right. And I guess it's all a result of we don't actually live in a world where people paint their curbs because we don't want the woman to trip, but they paint their curbs because that shows that we don't want the liability of. Well, and that's a real societal shame. And you're absolutely right on the aspects of tort law. I just wanted to bring out that, hey, if there wasn't that need for that cost or what have you,
right,
for the folks, it might not. She wouldn't be seeking it.
Dan, that's like, remember the Pinto? We're not going to recall it because it will pay some personal injury settlements because it's cheaper not to recall it than it is to pay a few settlements. I mean, that's the bean counter methodology. But here's the answer. As a stockholder, right, if you own shares of AT&T or shares of Google, you don't want them out saving the environment. You want them out there making a profit, right?
Right. Right.
All right, my friend.
Have a good one. Thanks
you so
much.
Take care. 540-0580. Jack, you're back.
Is Jack?
Yeah, Jack.
Okay. I'm following up on the gun club issue last several weeks. A couple questions. From your personal standpoint, what would you consider to be reasonable operational hours for a gun club?
For a gun club?
Yes.
I think daylight hours are reasonable.
Daylight?
Yeah.
And how about sunset?
I mean, sunset's the end of daylight. So, that's a tough one. But I would say not more than half an hour past the actual sunset, which would be pretty close in line with what we do for hunting.
Can a municipality institute a noise ordinance targeting the gun club?
I think they could. Whether or not they'll be grandfathered in under it or can claim that. But to the extent that it's a safety regulation, it may be possible to prevent grandfathering.
One of your callers last week indicated an attorney had called to suggest there was a dispute resolution avenue. Can you go into more detail on that?
I posted on my Facebook page, but it's a neighborhood dispute resolution, and they're like a local not-for-profit that tries to help neighbors and neighborhoods resolve conflicts over fences and dogs and cats, and in this case, gun club noise.
And it is posted on your Facebook?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that apparently Pennsylvania law protects gun clubs from noise ordinances up until 10 p.m.? Is there any validity to that? Are you aware?
I haven't seen that, but if somebody wants to point it to me, I'd love to look at it. Wouldn't surprise me. The gun lobby here in Pennsylvania has done very well for itself, and I'm not faulting them for that at all. In fact, I'm the beneficiary of that.
So, in your view, shooting before 9 a.m. and terminating at sunset, according to the solar calendar, would be reasonable or not reasonable?
Would be reasonable in my mind, but then again, I'm not living with the noise, right?
Right, exactly.
I'm the guy that wants to go shoot.
Right, exactly. Carl, thank you very much.
All right, not a problem.
Bye.
Listen, who knows? Who knows? I used to live by the fire hall, okay? Now think about this. I used to live by the fire hall, and that stupid whistle used to go off, and it would blast so loud that it would shake the entire house. Now, I guess we could have sued the firefighters and said, you're destroying my hearing. Instead, we just adapted to it to where we didn't even realize that the fire whistle was going off. So a friend had come to visit from college, and he goes, dude, you guys just did the weirdest thing. And I was like, what's that? He's like, well, your whole family's talking, and then that whistle blows, and I just about jumped out of my skin, but I noticed all of you just stopped what you were doing for the moment, and as soon as the whistle stopped, you went right back to talking, and then when the whistle blew again, you all stopped talking, and then you went back to talking. When the whistle blew again, and I was like, we did? But, after 20 years of living by the fire hall whistle, it was like it didn't even exist in our world. I guess we were all just would pause because you knew you couldn't talk over it. And that had just been built into our routine. Now, that was intermittent and sometimes late at night and sometimes early in the morning, but it's true it wasn't constant. So I don't know. I don't know if I lived by a gun range, would I go nutty or not? I can tell you that when I hunt on the Dillsburg game lands, you can hear the one gun club shooting down there. And I do find it a little annoying when I'm trying to listen for deer in the woods to have this constant rumble of gunfire. So I don't know. 540-0580. I'll see you guys after the break.
Let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Hey, Carl Rominger here, answering your legal questions, 540-0580. During the break, Matt Myers says to me that that's like the quote from the Blues Brothers. So here it is. It's from a very small room. See if we can get it here. Oh. That's the train.
Well, it ain't much, but it's home.
How often does the train go by?
So often you won't even notice it.
There you go. There's the quote. So often you won't even notice it. There you go, Matt. Josh.
I'm pretty impressed. RJ compliments me for finding sound clips fast. That's even better.
I was pretty quick with that. Josh, you're on the air.
Hey, Carl. I'm just calling in. My son recently got a job with a company that sets up work zones.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if he would set up a work zone, set up the sign, set up all the cones and everything, and something would happen, God forbid, he gets hit. Well, I guess not if he gets hit, but if his partner would get hit, one of his clients gets hit, someone has an accident, what's his liability on that?
I mean, is he working for somebody like a legitimate company, or is he just doing this as a subcontractor himself?
No, it's a legitimate company.
They should have a form of insurance that's going to cover him and them in terms of anything. If he got hit, it would simply be workers' compensation.
Yeah. Okay. Because that just kind of worried me hearing about all the liability and everything. And, when the lawsuits start flying, you never know where they're going to end up.
Well, reminds me years ago, I'm driving up through the mountain, and I see it's like a Sunday, right? And I go, what's this flag man ahead? Flag man ahead? As I turn the corner, and of course there's the flag man, and I'm screeching to a halt, and he's looking at me like, hey, you know what? And I'm thinking, well, I guess they do work on Sundays.
Yeah, he works a lot of Sundays. They work all the time.
So, but yeah, I can see that. And it was one of those, how many times do I have to read the sign before I get the message that the flag man's out? So yeah, those are dangerous, and actually, those jobs, those highway jobs for PennDOT workers and the people who do the construction on the highway, they're very dangerous jobs. Underwelder welding, I think, is up there too, but but that is a dangerous job. The flip side is it does pay well, so.
Yeah, it does. He's making out pretty good. I just want to check on if there's a possibility of him getting sued or something like that would happen.
The only thing I would do if I were him is I would just make sure the employer has reasonable insurance. I'm not sure how you do that. I mean, remember earlier I was talking about, if you were listening earlier or not, but I was talking about, you call the court and they go, why are you bugging us, Yeah. And if I'm the employer, I might be like, why do you care? You're a troublemaker? Should I fire you? So... maybe it's just something you can ask around about. But if it's a legitimate large company, you would think they would have some insurance. Now, here's the upside. Okay, assume your son's married. He's going to have the tenants in the entirety protection. But if he's not married and he only has 2 sticks and nothing else to rub together, then he has the bankruptcy option in case of a liability suit as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, brother.
All right, thanks a lot.
540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. Of course, I want to remind you guys, and it's 540-0580. I want to remind you, go to the Carlisle Bakery, and you can get a Rominger & Associates coffee mug. Just stop in over there. It's 35 South Hanover Street in Carlisle. They're open Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Buy your coffee, ask for it in a Rominger & Associates mug, and it's yours to take home. Keeps hot things hot and beer cold. And we discovered that quite by accident, that it keeps beer cold. We took them to a golf outing. Actually, we gave them out at a golf outing, and everybody there, to their chagrin, discovered that the coffee mugs also keep beer cold. They're nice plastic ones, and they fit in your car real well. August 25th from 2 to 3 p.m., we're going to have David Nesbitt on here, and I want to make sure you guys know about that, Keystone Elder Law. If you have any elder law issues or you've wondered about elder law stuff, I'm just trying to remind you, don't miss it. It's going to be must book radio, August 25th, 2 to 3 p.m. And if you have any elderly friends or people who are interested in elder law, I want you to pass the word out to them, too, because it's going to be an exciting opportunity for them to hear the state of the art in elder law and get their questions answered on the air with David. On Tuesday, September 4th, I'm going to be at the Harrisburg Hunters and Anglers Association. That's an open meeting. Anybody in the public is welcome to come and hear it. I'm going to give a discussion after the membership meeting on gun rights and gun law. I did that a year ago. They invited me back, so apparently it wasn't as boring as I thought it was. But seriously, if you do want to have something done on gun rights, gun law, or any other legal issue for your group or organization, let me know. But on Tuesday, September 4th at 7 p.m., I will be doing the Harrisburg Hunters and Anglers Association. And, of course, you can get me on Facebook. And don't forget, RomingerLaw.com is our website. And if you need us in the office throughout the week, go to 241-6070. Kay, you're on the air.
Hi.
What's going on?
I went to a lawyer, no big problem, just for some papers to be made clear and notarized, and a will, and anyhow, someone, said about, go to this guy, he's good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to him and made an appointment, and we sat down and talked. And while we were there, he said, I'd like to bring in this man. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'd like to bring in this Linda, my secretary, because she's my notary. And so he told me the things that I would need to get together and bring in. And he said make an appointment with my my secretary. And so I did that. When I went up the next time, I didn't have an appointment with him. I had an appointment with this other man who I was really only introduced to him by his first name. It sort of wondered me, but I didn't think too much of it. I thought, well, whatever. And
is this to get a will done?
No, it was to get some papers transferred of things that needed to be put in my name.
Okay.
And they had to be notarized, and so anyhow, so he told me some things, and I made another appointment. We went back, and he said, now we want to make it clear that that this person really is wanting to do this and not being forced into doing it.
Correct.
And so the person that was doing this for me had to come up and, fill out some papers and sign some papers and notarize papers. And I never, only that one time, did I ever see the lawyer that I had made the original appointment with. And,
Was the second person a lawyer? Do you know?
Well, they didn't introduce him as a lawyer or a colleague, or they just introduced him. I'll just make up a name, Dave.
Right.
They just introduced, this is Dave, and this is Linda. Linda's my notary, and I looked in the phone book, and it doesn't say that he has any other lawyers working in his office with him.
Well, did you call him up and ask him who that?
Well, what really then happened? He said I had to go up to the courthouse, and I went up there, and the girl at the courthouse, she said, "What are you doing bringing these papers up here?" And I said, "Well, my lawyer told me to." And she said, "Well, he's supposed to bring these papers up there." She said, "That makes me mad when they do that." She said, "I can do it," but she said, "He's supposed to bring them up. That's how it's supposed to be done."
Mm-hmm.
And so then I looked at her, and just by chance, Dave happened to walk in the door.
Right.
And I looked, I said, "Well, that's him. That's the guy, but that wasn't supposed to be my lawyer. That's not who I made the appointment with." I said, "Is he a lawyer?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, he's a lawyer." And she said, "But you never see that other guy."
Let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Okay, we got cut off there by a little storm cloud.
Yeah, weather report. But anyway, I just,
You had a bad experience.
Well, exactly. And now, who do I pay? I mean...
Well, you pay the guy that's billing you, which would be the office you went to.
Yeah, that's what and it's just, it's just that if a doctor would do that to somebody, I mean, they'd scream,
I don't know. Sometimes when I go to the doctor, I get different people in the room. I'm never sure which doc I'm going to get.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. All right, Kay, well, I appreciate that. And what I would tell you to do the next time you're in a situation like that, I would just, ask to see the person in charge or the person you thought you were going to see, just to say, introduce me to this person so I know what their bona fides are and why you're doing that.
Well, this is probably the second time in my entire life. This isn't something that a lay person does very often.
I know.
So, we just sort of assume, I guess, that the lawyer is taking care of business the way it should be taken care of. And I don't feel it was taken care of properly.
Well, that's funny. The doctors were talking about that this morning, though. They said, does patient satisfaction really matter as long as you're providing good medical care? And the answer is it does kind of matter. So the question is, did they do your legal work right? And if the answer is yes, good, bully for them. But they certainly could have done it in a little bit smoother, more professional manner. I'll give you an example. If you came to my office and I was going to give your case to one of the other lawyers because, for instance, let's say it's a complex zoning issue or something that Steve Snyder likes to work on, or I was going to give you to one of the young associates because you really couldn't afford my hourly rate, but I know you could, the associate. I would introduce you to them and say, okay, this is Steve, and Steve does this, and this is what Steve does, and this is why we use Steve. Steve, K, Steve, and we'd all kind of, sing Kumbaya before I left the room.
And you'd say you'll be seeing him from now on.
Right. But if you have any questions, let me know. Or, if you have a problem, let me know, and we'll deal with it. So, that's not what happened. I know. No. All right, Kim, I'm going to let you go because I got to fire off a couple more answers here. But thanks for the story. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Also, while I've got everybody's attention here, I do want to remind you to be courteous to people on horseback when you're out on the road. And you're coming up on a horse, there's a little rule of etiquette, which is to slow down a little bit. A lot of horses have no problem with cars, but they do have a problem with fast cars. Horses just get nervous around things that are quickly moving or loud and noisy or just pure predatory. And so you can really prevent a tragedy and, more importantly, keep a rider from getting thrown by simply slowing down and going at a very prudent pace past the horse. And I say this only because I've recently been doing a lot of horseback riding, and I've noticed that a lot of motorists get it, but every once in a while you have somebody who seems to think that, going 75 miles an hour down the back road, and I don't have a problem with that. You want to speed, God bless you. But I just want to note that because I don't think everybody knows what the etiquette is. Same thing with mixed-use trail, with bicycles and horses. The horses have to slow down. The bikes have to slow. Everybody has to kind of pass each other in a sequence if you're going to use these mixed-use trails. So just my 2 cents, but I thought it was worth noting because, like I say, the other thing, by the way, the right lane is the slow lane. The left lane is the fast lane. Keep that in mind when you're on the turnpike, too. 540-0580. Mark, what's going on? Hey, Mark.
Oh, hey, Carl, thanks for taking my call. Hey, I have a couple items of property in a friend's building.
Yes.
And good friends and so on. This is like a brother, basically. But in the event that something were to happen to him, I thought if I could get those items with as little hassle as possible would be just take 3 digital photos, clearly indicate what they are. They're 3 together, maybe $1,500 maximum. Just take 3 digital photos, just write some kind of a statement that he acknowledges that they're my items, and then go get that notarized. Would that be enough that I could take them out in the event, in a tragic event like that, or is it more complicated?
It might be slightly more complicated, but probably not. That would be pretty darn good proof.
Okay.
And since you can't testify to what the dead guy said, because we have this Dead Man's Act, getting it in writing before they die is critical.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would be – I would just have like a brief blurb of what each of the 3 items is. Maybe include like some dimensions. I mean,
it just has to be enough that we all know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Let me explain it this way. If the description says it's 10 by 20 and it's red and it's in the barn, and there's something that's 10 by 20 and red and in that barn, it's a pretty good sign it's the same thing.
And that would hold up there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right, brother.
Thank you.
Tom, you're on the air. Hey, Tom.
Okay. I'm sorry. Thanks for taking my call. I want to know if the state police can, if you're just driving down the road, can the state police run your plate?
Not only can they do it, they sit there and do it. They type it in their little laptops all day long. And now they got an OCR reader, a little machine that can read them and run them as they drive down the road, so they don't even have to type them anymore. So there's your answer, Tom. I got to go, guys. I'll be back next week with 2 swinging hours of legal answers for you. In the meantime, go to Facebook. Look me up, Carl with a K, Rominger, Rominger. Friend me. Get exclusive content there. Go to RomingerLaw.com. And throughout the week, if you need to hire a lawyer, it's 241-6070. 241-6070. That's 717-241-6070.
Thanks, Bob.